On today's show, a Cavalanche in Denver. How fitting. Let's talk about the Cavs' offensive explosion against the Denver Nuggets on Friday night on today's edition of Locked On Cavs.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? My name's Danny Cunningham. You might know me from my time covering the Cleveland Cavaliers, places like 92.3 The Fan, Cleveland Magazine, my new Substack, The Inside Shot. I want to say thank you to you for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today and every day. You can find the show anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. Drop us a 5-star rating. Leave us a nice review. Be a friend. Tell a friend about Locked On Cavs. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure they're subscribed as well. You can also check us out on YouTube. And if you're watching this video right now, do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button for me. Click subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs content, a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode, of course, sponsored by FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel because right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com to get started today. The Cleveland Cavaliers absolutely dominated the Denver Nuggets offensively on Friday night. It was a big win offensively. This was, just a masterpiece. 149-135 final score. There's a lot to get into with this game. I want to talk about Jarrett Allen because I thought this was one of the best games he's played all year. We need to talk about Evan Mobley, but I think that this game started with Donovan Mitchell being aggressive from the jump, and that's where I need to start today's episode because this is what I think is a very important road trip for the Cleveland Cavaliers. It's 4 road games against 4 Western Conference teams who all have, I don't know that they're all realistic, but they all look themselves in the mirror and say, we want to win the title this year. I don't think that the Lakers are capable of it. I don't think that the Warriors are capable of it. I don't think Denver's capable of it, but then Dallas is. But you look at those 4 teams, and they all wake up every day with the goal of winning the championship in June. And that's what the Cavs have on this road trip. They have to go prove themselves against teams that kind of have been there and done that, right? All 4 of those teams have either won a title, the first 3 have, and then Dallas was just in the finals this past June. And I think that Donovan could kind of sense just how important of a road trip this is to make a statement that, you know what, yeah, they've won a lot of games, and people are always going to point to their strength of schedule as not being one of the toughest in the NBA, but they've dominated teams, and they dominated Denver on Friday night. It was the second time that they've dominated Denver this year. But the way that he started this game, where he came out just absolutely on fire, I thought was really important because it made a statement to the rest of the team that it was okay. We're ready for this. Let's go. It's our time to go. Let's go right now. And he scored 16 points in the first quarter, made 4 threes in the first quarter. All of that was important because Denver played really well in the first quarter too. That was a game where if Donovan doesn't have the type of first quarter that he had on Friday night, it very easily could be, Denver scored 38 points in the first quarter. Donovan doesn't score 16, then the Cavs could be facing a deficit. Denver's a really tough place to play. They've got a good crowd. Everything about the altitude that you've always heard about teams going to Denver. Like there's a reason why the Denver Nuggets are a really good team at home. Well, I thought Donovan Mitchell's start to this game, his first quarter, his first half overall, I thought that was really important to setting the tone, again, not just for this game, for this road trip. He had 16 points in the first quarter, he had 25 points in the first half. He was in a game in which the guy who I think is probably going to win MVP in Nikola Jokic, Donovan Mitchell was the best player on the floor in the first half. And I thought that was a really big deal. I thought that one of the things that impresses me most about Donovan Mitchell is the way that he can sense really well the moment for when his team needs him to step up and when it's time for him to take a backseat to other guys. That is one of the things that I think has been one of the biggest areas of growth for him as a leader throughout his maturation process. I think there have been times earlier in his career, certainly when he was in Utah, probably his first year, maybe even last year when he was here in Cleveland, where he would try and do a little bit too much too often, where he would try and put his team on the back when the team didn't need to be put on his back. And is he capable of doing that? Sure. But is that going to maximize himself? Is that going to maximize the team? No. But he's still capable of doing it when he needs to do it. And I thought that this first half on Friday night was a very appropriate time for him to show up and say, you know what, guys, I got us. We're going to figure this out. I got us. Even if, Denver's playing really well offensively in the first quarter as they were. And then the Cavs defense, I thought, played much better in the second quarter and held Denver to, I think it was 27 points. But Donovan stepped up in that moment because this was an important game. This is an important road trip. And that first half from Donovan set the tone for both of those things. Not just setting the tone for how Friday night went, but setting the tone for the next 3 games on this road trip too. I think that he can sense how important this is, how big it would be if the Cavs go 3-1 or 4-0 on this road trip. I think that'd be massive. And they got off to a great start with how they played offensively on Friday night. Evan Mobley, I also thought was really, really good. He hit 4 threes, which we need to start talking about Evan Mobley as a 3-point shooter because it's still, sure, a little bit of a small sample size, but look at his last 8 games. So before that game against Charlotte a few weeks ago, in which he hit 6 threes, his career high for made threes in the game was 3. He hit 6 that night. He actually hit 3 the game before the Cavs went on the road. I don't remember who that game was against, but I know Evan Mobley hit 3 threes in that game. Since then, that encompasses his previous 8 games. Evan Mobley has hit 3 or more threes 4 times in 8 games. Now, this isn't to say that he's all of a sudden Kevin Durant, and this is what we're going to expect from him on a nightly basis. But the fact that he's done this, at least that consistently, to where it's not just, once a month he can hit 3 threes. No, he's done this 4 times basically in 2.5 weeks. That's really, really a great sign for him. And I do think that we are going to have to see how teams defend the Cavs change because of this. For the season, he's shooting over 40% from 3. The volume is still not super high, but it's getting better. It is going up. And nights like tonight, where I think he took 5 of them on Friday night, nights like Friday night are going to start to gain, he's going to start to gain more respect from opponents. He took 6 of them, 4 of 6 from 3. He's going to start to gain more respect from the way that opponents defend him. He's going to start to be somebody that creates more space by being out on the wing, by being in the corner. He's not going to be somebody that defenses are going to be able to just leave alone, and if he makes it, he makes it. Now, there are going to be times when defenses do that because you kind of got to pick your poison, right? Like, if the Cavs are really rolling offensively, who are you going to leave open? Like, who are you going to help off of? I thought it was really important the way Dean Wade played early on. There were 2 threes that he took. He made 3 threes on the night, but there were 2 threes that he made in the first quarter that were kind of contested looks. And those are the kind of shots that Dean Wade doesn't always take, but those are the kinds of shots from the outside that I know the Cavs want him to take because they believe in him as a shooter that is, they think he's a 40% 3-point shooter. They think he's that good for me on the arc. They need him to be aggressive in the attempts that he takes. So when he's taking those, and I know that he's probably not going to be in the starting lineup forever, but when he's taking and making those, okay, defenses are going to be drawn there. There's so much gravity on the floor, especially when Jarrett Allen, I'm going to talk about Jarrett Allen, how good he was on Friday night, coming up in just a minute. But when the Cavs are rolling like they were on Friday night offensively, there's no weak spots. There's nowhere for a defense to sag off. There's no one that they can help off of. The Cavs played almost a flawless offensive game against Denver. And you saw it with 149 points. They were incredible on that end of the floor. Evan Mobley was a big part of it. Donovan Mitchell was a big part of it. But what we've seen from Evan Mobley, I kind of want to stop calling this like, oh, Evan Mobley's taking the leap, right? Because this is just who he is now. Evan Mobley is an all-star. Evan Mobley is an all-NBA caliber player. And I do think that, call me crazy here, what we've seen him grow into this year, if you want to call this Evan Mobley's leap, that's fine. I think he has another leap just like this, if not bigger, that he's still capable of. I still think that is inside Evan Mobley. I still think he has several levels that he can get to that we haven't seen yet. Part of it's the shooting. Is he going to be a 40% shooter from 3-point range? I don't know. That might be a little bit much. But man, if he has nights like he had on Friday, how do you stop this Cavs offense? The Cavs had 4 guys score 20 or more points. 5th time this year that's happened. They had 3 guys score 25 or more. When that happens, you can't beat this team. You cannot beat this team. That's how good they are offensively. This is one of the best offensive teams in NBA history. And Friday night, they absolutely looked like it. It was incredible to watch. Evan Mobley was a big part of it. Donovan Mitchell was a big part of it. Jarrett Allen, Darius Garland, everybody was a big part of it. And I think that is something that makes this team, 1, more enjoyable to watch, but 2, special. They are a special team capable of a lot. I said I was going to talk about Jarrett Allen. I don't think I've given Jarrett Allen enough credit this year, so I'm going to do that next. Plus, the ball movement was great, and there's a really cool stat that we have to dive into right here on Locked On Cavs. Today's show is brought to you by Robinhood. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now, with the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.25% APY on uninvested cash and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on IRA account contributions. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at robinhood.com/gold. That's robinhood.com/gold, robinhood.com/GOLD. Terms apply for product specific disclosures. Visit robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC. Thank you again for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today and every day. Like I said at the top of the show, you can find us anywhere you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. Drop us a 5-star rating. Be a friend. Tell a friend about Locked On Cavs. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure they're subscribed. Also, make sure to check out the Locked On Cavs newsletter because right now, your one stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox every day. You can sign up for free now at lockedondaily.com. That's lockedondaily.com and start your day with the all-new free Locked On Cavs newsletter. Sorry about my voice. I am fighting the flu. That's why there was not an episode on Friday. It's not been fun. Been very much under the weather the past couple of days, but couldn't not talk about this game. So I do need to spend some time talking about Jarrett Allen because I thought that the first half he played on Friday night against Denver was maybe his best half of the season. Jarrett is a player who I don't know that the box score is always going to tell the full story with him, right? Like he can, I think, have a really big impact some nights by scoring 10 points. Other nights like Friday, he has 22 points and you feel that impact even more and the box score shows it. But just because he only has 10 points other nights doesn't mean he's not good. I thought he was awesome on Friday night. And I don't know that Jarrett Allen has had his best season to date. I think that there have been games where he's looked lost on defense. I think there have been games where his touch has been a little bit off offensively. But I thought that this was probably the best game that he's played so far this season. In the first half, he was everywhere on both ends. I thought he did a really good job defending Nikola Jokic. And I know that sounds crazy considering that, Denver scored 65 points in the first half, and Nikola Jokic is a monster and probably going to win MVP. But Jarrett Allen was awesome. And I thought offensively, he did a lot of really good things. There was the one dunk that he had in transition. And normally, like you see Jarrett Allen take 2 dribbles with the basketball in the open floor, and you're kind of like, oh no, this is not going to end well. That was great to see. And the way he finished around the basket was terrific. Like I don't have the words for how good he was and how the Cavs become when Jarrett Allen plays the way he did on Friday night. Teams cannot beat the Cavs when their 4th best player, which that is who Jarrett Allen is at this point. Last year, you could say he was their 2nd best player. He is their 4th best player right now at best. When their 4th best player has a game as good as Jarrett Allen did on Friday night, you are not going to see the Cavs lose. You're just not, it's not going to happen. He's too good the way he played Friday night for the Cavs to lose. I thought his activity defensively was great. I thought the way he battled for rebounds was really, really, really impressive. And it's just the way that he played in defending Nikola Jokic, who I get it, like he had a triple-double, but life was never easy for Jokic when Jarrett Allen was out there. And I do think that has been something throughout his career, at least since he's been in Cleveland, that Jarrett Allen has done really well. I think he's matched up pretty well with Nikola Jokic. I think there's a lot of mutual respect there, truthfully. And then offensively, where, Denver doesn't have an answer on the perimeter for Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell. Like, they just don't have guards that can defend those guys. And that led to, you saw a lot of Darius Garland floaters. Well, that also led to, okay, Denver, I think, tried a zone at a certain point. And the Cavs just gave the ball to Jarrett Allen kind of at the nail, and he made the right play every single time, because that's exactly what he did. He didn't play a perfect game, but this was one of the best games, if not the best game that he's played all season long. I was very, very impressed with him. That was kind of the first thing that I had down in my notes. One other thing that was really good to see before I get to a couple of team stats that I want to talk about, Sam Merrill and Dean Wade both hit 3 threes. Sam hit 6 threes on Monday night against Utah. I talked about that after the Utah game. But I think it's really important for Sam to get going. Since he came back from his ankle injury before that Utah game, he was shooting 28% from beyond 3-point range, which for Sam Merrill, that's incredibly low. You don't expect him to be that type of player. So to see him have 9 made 3-pointers over a 2-game stretch, I think is going to be, 1, really big for his confidence, and 2, really big for this Cavs team, because they're going to come to a position where, how do you find minutes for everybody when they're back to being fully healthy? And I don't know when Isaac Okoro is going to be back. It's not going to be on this road trip, I don't believe. But they're going to need to find minutes for everybody. And right now, I think guys like Sam Merrill, Dean Wade, I think they're playing for their future minutes. Not all of them. I'm not saying that they're going to be booted out of the rotation. But I do think that how many minutes they get kind of being evaluated right now. And to have a game like this, I think is really important for Sam. I think it's really important for Dean. I talked about the 2 threes that he hit in the first quarter, how important those were. Like, that's the type of shots that the Cavs want to see him taking and making. He's capable of doing it. And Sam Merrill, it's the same thing. He's going to take a lot of difficult threes because he's such a movement shooter. So he's going to take some off-balance ones. And him making as many as he did, making 3 of them, that is really, really important to the success of this team. Because, again, when guys are coming off the bench and making 3 threes, the Cavs had 6 players on Friday night that made 2 3-pointers or more. When that happens, they're just not going to lose. All right, so now for a couple of team stats that really stood out to me Friday night. So the Cavs had 4 players, all 4 members of the core 4, Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, Jarrett Allen, scored 20 points or more. That's the 5th time that has happened in a game for the Cavs this season. I don't know how many times it had happened before this season, but it doesn't feel like it was a lot, right? That is one of the things that makes what the Cavs do offensively so impressive. Yeah, it's the 3-pointer that does it too. And I'll talk about that more in a second. But the way that they have so many different ways of attacking it. Like, if you are a defense right now, put yourselves in the shoes of an NBA coach trying to put together a scouting report to defend the Cavs. What do you do? Like, what are the answers to defend what the Cavs do offensively, particularly when they're hitting threes? But even if they're not, Jarrett Allen still had 22 points. He didn't take a 3, right? Like, that is part of what makes this team so special, is that there are so many different ways that they can put up 130 plus points. Friday night was the 8th time this season the Cavs have scored 130 or more points in a game. Before this season, the franchise record was 5 games of 130 or more points in a single season. They've done it 8 times. It is December 27th as I record this. That's nuts. Like, that speaks to how potent this offense is. The other big one that and by the way, 149 points, the most points that the Cavs have ever scored in a regulation basketball game. It's not the franchise record for most points in a game. That was set in a game, I think it's 154. That was set in a game that went to 4 overtimes. So this is the most ever points that the Cavs have scored in a game that did not go to overtime. Really impressive stuff. And then the other one that I wanted to touch on, this was the 4th consecutive game the Cavs had 20 or more made 3-pointers. There's been one other team in NBA history that has done that. So go back the last 4 games. And even if you want to go back 5 games, The Cavs made 19 in that previous game. So they're like 1 3-pointer away from this being a 5-game streak right now. But one other team ever has made 20 or more 3-pointers in 4 straight games. Last year's Boston Celtics. I'm not saying that stat alone means the Cavs are going to win the title this year, but they're in pretty good company as a team that can absolutely just go out there and destroy teams from beyond the arc. They have a number of good shooters. And like one of the most impressive things here is I know we don't think of Isaac Okoro as this sniper, but he's shooting 49% from 3. He's not available right now. Max Strus is somebody who I think we do all think of as a really good shooter. He's still getting up to speed. He only made 1 3-pointer on the night. The Cavs don't have, especially with Evan Mobley shooting the way Evan Mobley is shooting, the Cavs really don't have guys that are not capable of making multiple 3-pointers in a night. Go up and down the roster. Basically everybody other than Jarrett Allen that plays, that sees significant playing time, if they make 2 threes in a game, you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. That checks out. That's not a big deal. Jarrett Allen's the only one that you're like, really, that guy made 2 threes? Other than that, there's nobody that you can look at and say, yeah, I didn't see that coming from that guy. That is one of the biggest keys to this offense. And I think it's a great sign, too, that I know people worry about, well, shooting can be streaky, and it can be. But when you're not counting on shooting to be from 1 or 2 guys, when you're counting on the shooting to be from 9 of the 10 or 10 of the 11 guys in the rotation, the chances of it being super streaky are not as high because someone's going to have an off night, right? But there are so many more guys that can pick them up when that person is having an off night. Say Darius Garland does not have it going on from 3 one night. Okay, well, maybe Karis LeVert does. Maybe Max Strus does. Maybe Sam Merrill does. Because they have so many guys that are good shooters coming off the bench, or I guess in Max's case, will be a starter, I presume. Because of that, the off nights don't matter as much because they have so many more guys that can pick them up and make it better. And that, to me, is one of the most impressive parts of this team. So now the Cavs are 27-4. It's the best start through 31 games in Cavs history. They're on pace for 71 wins. They're not going to get there, I don't think. But what's a realistic expectation? We'll talk about that next right here on Locked On Cavs. Today's show is brought to you, of course, by FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Because right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. FanDuel has so many ways for you to pick up a win. One of the things that I certainly do like is betting on which players will score a touchdown. You've got NFL games. I believe there's 3 games today. I know there's games on Sunday because the Browns play Miami. Don't love anything about that game. But you can bet on who's going to score a touchdown. I don't know. Maybe you think Jerome Ford's going to find a way to get in the end zone for the Cleveland Browns on Sunday. You might want to put a little bit of money on that. I don't know if he's going to score. Maybe Jerry Jeudy will find some magic that he had with Jameis Winston, even though Dorian Thompson-Robinson's playing quarterback. I don't know what's going to happen Sunday. But if you think you do, FanDuel is the place to go. So what you need to do, visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Thank you again for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today and every day. Like I said earlier, if you're watching the show on YouTube, do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button for me, click subscribe, hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs content. The Cavs are 27-4. It is the best 31-game start in franchise history. The 2008-2009 Cleveland Cavaliers team that went 66-16, they started 26-5. So this team surpassed them for the best 31-game start in franchise history. Why is it a 31-game start? Because that's how many games the Cavs have played. All of this is arbitrary. But they are on pace to win 71 games this year. I don't think that is going to happen. I mean, the Cavs are a buzzsaw right now. There's no question about that. They look better than every team in basketball. And it's not just that they're beating teams. They are destroying teams repeatedly and good teams like Denver. I don't think is a team that can win the title this year, but they're a really, really good team. Milwaukee, I don't think is a team that can win the title this year, but they're a pretty good team. The Cavs beat them by 24. Philadelphia, again, a team I don't think can win the title this year, but they've won 8 out of their last 11. They just beat Boston on Christmas. The Cavs beat them by 20 plus last Saturday night. Like the Cavs are just dominating good teams. And that's how they've gotten to 27-4. So can they get to 71? Probably not. Like, I just think at a certain point, they're going to hit a rough patch. I don't know when that's going to be. I don't know how long it's going to last. But I think to play at this pace probably isn't the most advisable thing. Because as we know, if you try and go for it, if you try and win 70-plus games, what's going to happen? You might run out of gas. We saw that happen in 2016. The Cavs benefited from that. Right? The Warriors went 73-9 and blew a 3-1 lead. We all know that. You don't want the Cavs to be that. But what is a realistic goal for this team? Because the win total this season, our friends at FanDuel set it at 48.5. And if you listened to Locked On Cavs during the summer, I was pounding the table for you to take the over. Like, that was the thing that I think I felt most passionate about in terms of totals. Maybe in the NBA, certainly the Cavs bet that I felt most passionate about. I don't want to say you can go cash your ticket, but I don't necessarily see a world where the Cavs don't get to 50 wins this year with how they've started it right now. They would have to have a colossal failure to not get to 50 wins. So what's a realistic goal? I think 65 should be the new goal. I think that this is a team that is very capable of getting to 65 wins. I think 65 wins would probably get you the number one overall seed, which would mean home court throughout the NBA Finals, which very important. Like, that is something we do have to talk about. That is an important goal that the Cavs should have. They should want to play, because despite how good they have been, if and when they are in the playoffs and say they're in the Eastern Conference Finals and it's Cavs Celtics, the Boston Celtics are going to be the team that is favored in that series. Whether you believe it, whether I believe it or not, the Celtics are going to be the team that FanDuel looks at and said that team is favored to win. All of the national pundits are going to say the Boston Celtics are the team that should win this series. Or most of the national pundits. I can't say all. Would you rather start that series at home and have a Game 7 at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse, or go to Boston for those games? That's an easy answer. Say you get to the finals and you've got Oklahoma City or Denver or maybe Minnesota figures it out. I think it's going to be Oklahoma City. But you would want to start that series. You would want game one of the NBA Finals to be in Cleveland. I think 65 wins probably gets you there. Maybe 64, but I think 65 is pretty safe. And I think the Cavs are capable of it. And we're seeing that this team is just a buzzsaw. They don't need to play their best to beat really good teams, because defensively, the Cavs were not great on Friday night. They didn't need to be great because they were so good offensively. But we've seen them not have to play their best and still just absolutely destroy good teams. They're capable of getting to 65 wins. I think the 71 that they're on pace for might be a bit of a stretch, but I think 65 is right in the ballpark of where they realistically could get to. So thank you for taking some time out of your weekend, for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today. Thank you for making Locked On Cavs your first listen every day. Like I said earlier, you can find the show anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. Drop us a 5-star rating. Leave us a nice review. Be a friend. Tell a friend about Locked On Cavs. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure they're subscribed as well. And if you're watching on YouTube, do me a favor. Hit that thumbs up button for me. Click subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs content. Thank you for sticking with me through my messed up voice, but I will be back on Monday